Kunja Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Somagyanatimirandasya Gnanjana Chalakaya Chakshuramiditam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So today we're finishing out chapter 43. We got the last 5 verses, 36 and through 40. And there's no commentary on these, so we'll just read them through. And the title of the chapter is the killing of the Kuvalayapita, who's now already dead. And we're coming to the climax here. So we'll just read the translations here, text 36 through 40, and the Canto 10, chapter 43. So hearing this, the wrestlers were beckoning Krishna and Balaram to fight with them. Hearing this, Lord Krishna, who liked to wrestle and welcomed the challenge, replied with words appropriate to the time and place. Says Lord Krishna said, although forest dwellers, we are also subjects of the Bhoja king. We must gratify his desires, for such behavior will confer upon us the greatest benefit. A little sarcasm there. And he says, we are just young boys and should play with those of equal strength. The wrestling match must go on properly so that irreligion does not taint the respectable members of the audience. And Chanura said, you aren't really a child or even a young man, because he's also being a little sarcastic here. He says, these big, powerful wrestlers are going to fight these kind of young boys. He says, this doesn't seem very fair. But he says, no. He says, you aren't really a child or even a young man. And neither is Balarama, the strongest of the strong. After all, you playfully killed an elephant who had the strength of 1,000 other elephants. Therefore, you two should fight powerful wrestlers. There's nothing unfair about that. You, O descendant of Vrishni, can show your prowess against me, and Balarama can fight with Mushtik. Okay. So anyway, things are coming to a head here in the whole saga of Krishna's early life. Throughout Krishna's life, Kamsa was afraid. He'd been informed even at the date of his sister's wedding with Vasudeva that his sister was going to bear a son that was going to kill him. And later on, later on when Krishna's sister was born, she said, he's already been born. You're trying to kill me, but the one that's going to kill you has already been born. And he had these constant really strange setbacks. Kamsa, he had so many allies, and he was sending them to Braj, and they were getting killed. All these powerful asuras are getting killed one after another, and he's beginning to become more worried about it. And then more recently, Narad told him straight out, this is the guy. He and his brother are the ones that are going to kill you. And so, kind of as a last desperate move, Kamsa decides, to bring him to his turf. Things weren't working out when they went to Vrindavan, so maybe if he brings them to his turf, on his turf, maybe he has a chance. And with the asuras, you have to understand, they have a different understanding of what God means or the supreme means, and that's what allows them to have continuous hope. So we know that Krishna is the absolute truth, which means he's the source and the controller of everything. but the asuras, they just think he's the most powerful being, and you can put in the kind of parentheses or quotes at the moment, that there's some hope that somebody stronger could come along and get rid of them. You see, so it's a difference between the most powerful and the all powerful. So like when uh, Hiranyakashipu is trying to kill his son Prahlad, and he keeps failing in the same strange way. He finally, out of exasperation, he says, where do you get your power from? How can you resist all this? And he says, Father, from the same place as you get yours. But that's the all powerful. So the demons, they think that the way they look at it is that there's this kind of mafia that's running the world, and you've got Vishnu at the top, and he's the most powerful, and he supports and is supported by the devas, who the demons usually deal with, and then there's this whole sacrifice thing, connection between humans and the devas, and also sometimes between the Lord. And so there's this whole kind of network of power. The sacrifices give power to the devas, and they think also to the Supreme Lord, and then they protect each other. So it's a whole racket, and they have this insane system by the Asura's reckoning, where like there's a certain structure. You have to consider others, right? Everybody all souls have kind of a right to exist and to thrive, and persons who have influence and power, they have to consider the welfare of those below them, so to speak, right? So they see them as valuable. The kings protect the small people as well as the significant people. The Vaishyas are allowed to produce so much, and there's a profit motive there, but they have to support everybody else. So there's a certain level of this kind of equity there. People are valued, and the Asuras, I think that this just holds back people who are extraordinary. And this is we have a view like this in the modern world. That's fairly prevalent, right? That those who have the intelligence and the strength and the capability, they should be able to get as much as they can and do whatever they can. They shouldn't be limited because other people have needs. Hey, let them starve, let them whatever it may be. They don't care. That whoever is most powerful should be able to maximize their strength. And so they see it like that, and so they think that there's a chance. So sometimes they use indirect warfare. You saw that with Hiranyakashipu, and you saw it somewhat with Kamsa. You persecute the Brahmins on earth, so they can't perform sacrifices that will, assist the demigods. You try to find, and I think they'll ultimately weaken, the network, and so that the Vishnu will be more vulnerable. So Kamsa has some at least hope, and because he's the strongest of them all. The demons don't work together. Like, he had all these alliances. No one ever voluntarily subordinates themselves to somebody who's less powerful. So the Kamsa is he's the top dog, definitely amongst the demons, and he's been when he lost a little bit of confidence, when he failed to kill Vasudeva and Devaki's daughter. They all his friends said, no, the Devas are all afraid of you. Nobody can touch you. Don't worry about it. But he's a little concerned because he knows in his past life Vishnu killed him, and so he's a little concerned. So he's brought Krishna on board here to his own place, and he set up these various obstacles. He tried to bring Lord Shiva in, because the Shiva sometimes even though Lord Shiva is a devotee of Krishna, he's very kind of he's merciful to everybody, easily pleased, and so he sometimes will reward them. Ravana was a famous devotee of Shiva, and we later on will run into Banasura, who Krishna even Lord Shiva even fights on his side against Krishna. So sometimes I think Shiva is going to help them in some way. So he has this big sacrifice going on, and Krishna came in, broke that sacrificial bow, killed all the soldiers. Then there's the elephant. That was his real ace in the hole, he thought. And he just takes care of the elephant, no trouble, no problem. He comes walking in with the tusks. right? And so, so Kamsa's looking down from his from where he is, elevated seat, and it's like it's not looking good. And then he says, all that's left of these wrestlers. Maybe they're going to take him out. So things are coming to a climax. Kamsa is really worried. He's tense and nervous. What's going to happen now? And then all of the other people also, right? Because not so from our point of view, we know Krishna is the absolute truth. So like there's nothing, the Krishna is going to win. Actually, there's this one gentleman that was coming here, and he was kind of an elderly gentleman. He read the whole Bhagavatam, and he's reading it again, but he didn't really like the 10th canto as much as some of the other ones. He liked the philosophy of that. And then he explained, he says, how many demons can you kill? He says, because there's no, Krishna uses inventive ways to do it. It's kind of interesting, but who's going to win, right? There's no suspense. It's just how he's going to do it. And so it's creative sometimes, right? He's dancing on the hoods of Kalia. That's cool, and different ways he comes up with things. But there's no suspense. No one, Krishna's going to win. And so, in order to deal with what's happening in the Bhagavatam, we have to understand that the other principal characters in the Bhagavatam don't know that about Krishna. Because and the whole idea between that Bhagavatam, it's not a story. Like sometimes you read a story and it's not about the conclusion. It's like sometimes you say, right, it's not about the destination, but it's about the journey. And so this is a nice story, but the story isn't the point. The point is the journey. And so one thing we may consider, and I think a lot of times when people take up spiritual life, they're looking for peace. They're living in chaos and looking for peace. And even when Prabhupada tells us that we can upgrade our existence from a temporary, ignorant, and miserable one to a permanent, knowledgeable, and blissful one, we're thinking, we're just going to be happy, right? We chant and just be happy, right? See, peaceful. And everything's going to be nice. Maybe we'll be cowherd boys and we'll go out and herd the cows, and it'll just be fun every day. It'll just be so nice. But I'm going to say something that may sound a little strange at first, but peace is boring. It's boring. And it's the same every time. And you see that as you go up in the material universe, right? There's higher levels of the mode of goodness, right? And mode of goodness, it's peaceful. You have knowledge and you're happy. And then you leave the universe, the Brahma Jyoti is even more peaceful. Right? And then you can go further up, you can go to Vaikuntha, where you have, Sarupya, the same form as Lord Vishnu, and you have living on the same planet. You can fly around in airplanes. The husbands and wives are floating around in airplanes, and it's very peaceful. And it's pleasant. Compared to what we have right now, it's an upgrade. There's no doubt about that. I'm not trying to say that we want the kind of chaos that we have here. It's a reasonable thing that we're seeking higher levels of peace. But if we think that peace is the upper limit, then we're cheating ourselves. And if you look at the Leela, there isn't a whole lot, there's not so much peace going on. There's crazy things like this. Here's Krishna, he may leave, right? The residents of Vrindavan, this is like, he says he's coming back, but he's left their place. And he's walking into this arena and he's dressed in the king's clothes. He doesn't look like a little cowherd boy. He doesn't have the cowherd dress on right now. He's wearing garlands from the king's garland maker. And who knows what'll happen, right? Sometimes people from the country, they get attracted by the big city. Later on, the gopis will accuse him of that. You went there and got attracted by the sophisticated city ladies. We're just simple country folk, and you forgot all about us. And you stayed there. So, the bright lights, big city. Maybe he's going to get captivated by that. Is he going to come back to our simple life when he sees what else is available? And who knows if he can beat this? What's going to happen now? Kamsa's been trying to kill him somehow or other. The Lord has saved him so many times, but now he's coming right to Kamsa in his place. Maybe he'll be killed this time. What's going to happen to my child? What's going to happen to our friend? So there's suspense, right? And you see all along throughout the Bhagavatam, there's suspense. As long as people don't know that the Lord is, the param satyam, the absolute truth and the source of all powers, there's suspense, or there's suspense with them. You see, the devotees are in distress. They're in distress. Later on we're gonna see that Kamsa's father-in-law, Jarasandha, has captured all these kings, and they're being held in captivity, being tortured, being starved to death. They're very skinny, and nothing's happening. They stay there for a long time. And when Krishna finally comes to rescue them, says even he cries tears to see how much they were suffering. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that at that case, in a situation like that where there's suffering and fear and you wonder what's going to happen, and Krishna appears and rescues you. Oh, it's always nice to see Krishna, but then Krishna's so it's an amazing moment. It increases your love for Krishna, right? It's a peak moment that pushes your love higher. So what's happening in the spiritual world, because this is, you got to understand it, especially in Krishna's part of the spiritual world, his private part, is that he's not just looking for peace, he's looking for love, and not just a kind of peaceful love, but a love that fully overwhelms you. It says that Krishna prema, it's Krishna karshani, it attracts Krishna. So when a person has it, a devotee has it, it attracts him to them. But also Krishna has prema, and it attracts him to make that his only purpose. That he loves with all his heart. And so when he came and rescued those kings, his heart overflowed. He saw their suffering. His love increased, and their love for him increased. Because finally, oh my God, finally it's Krishna. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses this example. He says that in the summertime, water is always a nice thing, but in the summertime, cool water is pleasant, and in the wintertime, warm water is pleasant. So when you're in distress and Krishna comes, his presence becomes it's amazing. It's just like you do in any kind of a drama. It's a dramatic moment that enhances everything. Because it's not just that you have this kind of level of love that's just constant, but it's always increasing. It's a kind of love that's blowing Krishna's mind and blowing the devotee's mind. This is what's happening there. It says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that at any one time, Krishna can know the limits of his own bliss, and then he blows through that limit. And so it's a constant falling into love and having deeper and deeper and deeper love. So that takes a little bit of chaos. It takes a little bit of uncertainty. It takes the separation and meeting. It takes the maybe potential dangers. It takes uncertainty. So like Prabhupada says, and he says when Krishna was a baby, Mother Yashoda didn't have any peace, is how he put it in the Krishna book. Because there's always something happening. How is she going to protect him against, all these demons that are coming, and just regular, and Balaram are kind of, they're mischievous children and kind of fearless, and who knows what kind of trouble they would get in just by themselves. What to speak of all these incredible demons, always appearing. And so she's, always anxious for Krishna. And when she sees him well, she's so happy. We see it in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna kind of he implies that even early on when he says, "Look, Krishna, if you want to kill all these people, you kill them. Leave me out of this stuff." You know, he says, "Well, why do you do this?" So they're friends. So we oftentimes will think, and it's natural for us to think this way, and it's not even all inaccurate fully, but we kind of think that if we let Krishna into our lives, that he's going to smooth things out for us a little bit. Right? Things are going to go nicely, and he does do that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He does do that. But if we want to connect more deeply with what his real purpose in life is and the real opportunity that we have to also embrace the chaos. I really think that that's what's meant by the second line of the third verse of the Shikshastakam, right? That one has to become more tolerant than a tree. It doesn't mean that we become like rocks and we can withstand anything, but that we do like Krishna, like Arjuna did, and say, "Okay, Krishna, I trust you." Like if you told Arjuna before the whole battle of Kurukshetra came about, said, "Imagine the worst thing that could happen to you." You know, he could have brainstormed for an hour and not come up with anything as horrific to him as that was. And it was like the worst thing. It was beyond anything imaginable. Just freaked him out. And he couldn't wrap his mind around it, even to the end. Krishna says in 1863, he says, "Look, I've told you all these secret things, right? You think about it carefully, then decide what you want to do." But he still, Krishna still sees that he just can't get his mind around it. It just won't work. And so he says in 66, he basically says, "Trust me. Look, I know and you have all these doubts. It seems so crazy for you, but trust me that this is the right thing. The surrender unto me means trust me. You know me." Right? So even if you can't intellectually get your mind around it or your emotions around it, just trust me. This is the right thing to do. It becomes personal. So we'll be called upon different times to trust Krishna, to embrace the chaos. Look what happened with Srila Prabhupada. You don't. I mean, Krishna could have let him keep some of his business, and so Prabhupada could have bought himself an airplane ticket. Otherwise, Krishna couldn't have arranged him an airplane ticket. He had to go on the Jaladuta. You know, he had to have heart attacks on the way. Right? He had to end up in Nowheresville, Pennsylvania. you know. And he thought he was going to come in and be like, like you hear about the uptown Swami, Swami Nikolananda. People were dealing with the uptown, folks. Prabhupada thought he was going to do that. He was going to talk to the movers and the shakers, and he was going to, because they could really influence people. And he was going to give the cure for the modern civilization in the Bhagavatam. And instead he got the counterculture people. He was living in the artist in residence loft and had to run when this guy had a bad trip on LSD. He had to pick up his stuff and just run, as the guy maybe was going to hurt him. You know, had to take the 26 second Avenue. They had money for one month. That was it. What were they going to do after that? They didn't know. He was going back. He kept going back to the steamship company because Sumati Moraji had given him, a round trip. He could come back whenever he wanted to on the steamship. But he kept going back to the company, and the guy there says, "Swamiji, you keep coming back and looking at the schedule, but you're not leaving yet." But he's later on he wrote a letter. He says, I think to who was it? Bali Mardan. He said that he says, "I was thinking maybe at least I can sell some books." It was hopeless. Maybe I can just sell some books. And so he was waiting as long as he could. You know. And then I mean, so many things happened. He was always saying, he wanted to be peaceful and be able to write his books, right? But no, it was troubles coming from all over the movement all the time. Internal troubles, external troubles. So you see and therefore, his attachment and love for Krishna is continuing to grow. We don't, prema is a dynamic thing. It doesn't stop. And so the meeting and separation, the tribulations, and all kinds of other interesting things that go on, that was what causes it to be dynamic and continue to grow and to blow the devotees' minds and blow Krishna's mind. If everything was just peaceful and they just had, it just wouldn't be, it just wouldn't be the same. It just wouldn't be the same. So the first verse of that third verse, the Shikshastam, that delineates steadiness, kind of a really important path, part of the sadhana. That first of all we have to be humble. We have to realize that we've been given something that's so valuable we could never earn it or deserve it or consider that we have any right to it, and therefore we open our hearts to Krishna's love and mercy. We try to get over ourselves a little bit. But then, then the second part is that we've got to deal with, we have to deal with the adventure. See, it's about adventure, right? And it wouldn't be adventure if it's all smooth and predictable and it's nice every day, right? But it takes a certain faith and it takes a certain, a certain adventuresomeness, a certain trust in Krishna. So sometimes you have the dark night of the soul. You think, well, Krishna, you couldn't really mean this. Are you really there? But it ends up deepening the connection. At first it may seem to weaken it. We may have some doubts. Then we're called upon to trust Krishna more deeply. We take a few of our preconditions off. I think we sign the contract, right? Pure devotional service. You sign your contract at the bottom of the contract with the big, your big John Hancock style signature. There we go. But in our minds, we got, okay, but Krishna's not going to do this. He's not going to do this. He's not going to do this. He's not going to do this, right? Things are just going to be good. We have all kinds of conditions that we think, pre-expectations of how it's going to go. And Krishna knows all about those. He signs the contract too. He's just like, okay, no problem. Yes, and so we think, okay, we're fine. And then Krishna begins to violate the little conditions that we have in the back of our minds, and we freak out, and then we have to decide, okay, Krishna, you're a pretty good guy. We'll let you slide on this one, right? We know he's a little bit of a troublemaker, even from childhood. He causes some chaos. So, okay, Krishna, right? So we give him a little leeway, right? Because it's natural in the beginning we let Krishna into our lives, and at some point, we have to come to the point where we become a small part of Krishna's life. We let him take over in some ways. We want to become part of his adventure instead of him coming in and kind of doing something for our lives. That Krishna's his life is much more exciting than ours. So even if we're kind of a small part, it's a huge upgrade. But it can be scary. It is scary. They're terrified. Although Yashoda's terrified. When she sees him there in the coils of Kali and Naga, this is not peaceful. Those is passing out because they can't even bear it. But then of course when he comes out, he starts dancing. Right? So it's better than before. And so it's that churning causes greater levels of love. That dynamism makes it better. So yeah, so I know that you want to. We can maybe just stop here and take questions and comments and complaints. We'll try to deal with it.
Very nice subject matter, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Love is dynamic, and in order for it to grow, there have to be challenges and maybe even demons. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot that can be maybe we can go deeper into that because there's so much going on in the world. And can we say that those things are necessary? Because some things are really, really nasty. How do we, as mature Vaishnavas, like your good self, how do we process things like that?
Yeah, I mean,
And what can you
yeah.
tell us about spiritual bypassing, if you
Ah,
heard?
yeah. Because oftentimes it's called dissociation, right? There's escapism and dissociation, and that oftentimes happens in spiritual life because we're looking for peace, right? We're looking for peace, and we've suffered all kinds of difficulties, perhaps in our lives, and so we'll just try to, we're gonna go to the place where there's bliss. We're gonna uh, try to overlook the trauma that we have. We want to overlook the darkness that we have may have inside of us, and just imagine that it's gone. Chant and be happy, and close our eyes and hope we'll wake up in the spiritual world. But bhakti is a process where you have to use the whole self. Right? We're going to be spiritual beings if things work out for us. We're going to be spiritual beings and be whole people. We're not going to be just like the little. We're going to have personality, and it's a relationship. It's a connection, and you can't have a connection with only part of yourself. And if you have a genuine connection with somebody, you can't just show the good parts and pretend everything else doesn't happen. And you can't just deal with the other person's good part. If it's a casual one, yeah, if it goes deep, you have to deal with the whole person. So if we're trying to become kind of impersonal and just be, serene and all this kind of stuff, you know, for one thing, it's, Krishna knows what you are. So he's not interested in that. He's interested in the whole person. He's interested in us. He knows us. So he knows us all the way through. Not only knows what we've done, he knows what we think. He not only knows what we think, but he knows what we've done and thought in all previous lifetimes. And he knows all the darkest stuff. And he's reaching out for us anyway. And we're going, no, 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 I don't have anything. No, 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 Krishna, I'm just full of love and devotion for you. And he's like, you know, come clean. Come clean. Tell me, here I am. I'm a mess. But I'm reaching out to you because of your incredible mercy. You know. So and it's a challenge, right? Because we think that if somebody created this world, how can there be so many horrors in it? Right? It's a challenge to anybody who thinks that there's a supreme power. We think we would do a better job. We could clean things up. Right? If I could be God for a day, I could clean a whole lot of stuff up real fast. So why doesn't Krishna do it? Because and ultimately it comes down to this depth of experience. We can try anything and everything. When we come to Krishna, it has to be free. And we can try everything else, and we can experience all kinds of deep, powerful things because the love is powerful. It's not just peaceful, it's powerful. So somehow all this stuff contributes to that. For us, if it happens to us, if things happen to us, we try to have um, a broader perspective. We realize that we've lived many, many lives and survived all kinds of things before, and we understand that there's something wonderful ahead of us. When it happens to others, we're supposed to feel compassion, right? For us, I feel okay. It's my karma. It's something that Krishna is trying to educate me on. If I do that to others, I'm being really insensitive. Right? And if we have a community like that, because what happens oftentimes is that people will suffer and say, oh, it's just your karma. Surrender to Krishna. Chant more. And then the feeling was just like, yeah, I don't care is what the feeling comes towards you, that people do not care about me. So then you have to stand up for yourself, because nobody else is. And so it's hard for you to accept that this is somehow karma or somehow the actions of Krishna. But if you are in a circumstance where everybody else is caring about you, and for how did we fail for this to happen? Then you for yourself can say, yes, this is my karma. People care for me. I feel supported, and I can actually deal with that in a much better way. But we hope nobody has to suffer. That's just that's the devotees are like that. We have to understand that yeah, somehow or other, It's part of Krishna's weird plan because it's, because the depth of what he's doing is so powerful. The depths of being away from him almost has to be equally powerful. But we don't still don't want to see it. We want Krishna to smooth it out for everybody. That we want. You know? So Bhima Prabhu has had his hand up for quite a while. So let's start with him.
Haribol Prabhu. Just want to check, make sure I can be heard okay. I'm out in the fields.
Yeah, you're coming in clear to me anyway.
Okay. I just wanted to give my appreciation to the the depth, the groundedness to this class in understanding, as you said, the chaos that's going on, to embrace the chaos. As a person who did a lot of reading before entering the movement, a lot of novels and fiction and nonfiction philosophy, I came to understand that there's somewhat of an adventure going on, and it will always go on, and it follows a pattern of the hero's journey, and that in a lot of ways, in a lot of scriptures, we have that return of the hero, the redemption of the hero. And I see that that adventure is a consistent thing that is necessary for the growth of the spirit. And of course, we often wonder, we're going to go back home, back to Godhead, but we wonder, who gets to play with Krishna. And obviously, you have to be, for Krishna to really, and this is, obvious, this is in our Shastra, that for Krishna to really enjoy himself with you, you have to be like him. He needs to feel like like he can surrender to you, that he can have faith that your heart is 100% in love with him, with no hesitation. And so this suffering, this chaos, these fires that we're going through is the purificatory and the growing process. Everything, what do they say? Growth is pain. Growth is always painful. So I just wanted to say that I very seldom do we hear somebody say that the mode of goodness can also be a trap. That with things, we don't want to disturb our regular sadhana, so I'm not going to go out of my way to do something that I've been called upon to because my sadhana will be disturbed, et cetera, or, just that enjoyment status. I'm enjoying the mode of goodness rather than throwing myself into something that's been asked of me, for the sake of service. I did have a question, and Ananda Bihari articulated it very well. We have this, maybe it's just because I'm paying more attention to it than ever before, but we have this great upheaval going on in the world, and the powers that be, so to speak, are exercising and are now able to have the facility to exercise that right. And I was really taken aback by how you answered my question that I've been having about the nature of good and evil, and the fact that evil understands that there is another power that they are fighting against, but they actually think they can usurp this power rather than a simple surrender. There's no way that you can usurp this power, so might as well surrender to it. Do you have any elaboration on that part, this sort of anti-Krishna feeling, anti-Christ type of thing?
Well, I think if we're to make a real impact, if we come to a point where we are able to actually make an impact, I think at one point, I think the biggest weakness we have right now, and this I'm stealing this from my Guru Maharaj, but that the biggest problem we have right now is getting to that third verse of the Shikshastra, where we can look at that verse and say that I'm more humble than the grass, more tolerant than the tree. I don't want any attention or respect for myself, but I want to give it for others. Each one is more difficult, by the way. Each step is more difficult. It's a little easier to be humbled in the presence of something great. It's harder to then have to deal with difficulties, and then people right? We get our self-esteem generally from comparison with other people. And so if we can respect others and don't want respect, then boy, that the ego is really, the false ego is really down. And that's our really big thing. And so most of us, and I'm raising both of my hands, when I look at that verse, I go, hopefully we have some of those qualities to some degree, right? Maybe all of them to some degree, but to say to the level that they're expressing that verse, not most of us don't pass that test. And that keeps us from connecting deeper with Krishna and keeping deeper with our level of compassion and our level of surrender. It's blocking us. And so it causes relationships between us to be more complicated because there's just more false ego involved. But if we build deeper connections with one another, if we develop more trust in Krishna, and do that, we will be a frightening force for the powers that be in the world. I mean, if you just look at the four regulative principles, right, that challenges a whole lot of the economy, and of course a whole lot of the illegal economy. You just deal with intoxications, both legal and illegal. If the profits start to go down from that, and from the meat industry, and from the sex industry, you're going to have some people really angry with us. If we start seeing things in the broader terminology and aren't going to be caught up with one's political ideology or another, that's going to make governments nervous. We're starting to see
So you're saying that not only is purity the force, but purity is the most aggressive stance we can take in fighting against the powers that be, is of course first starting with ourselves, purifying ourselves of sort of like we're boycotting all the things that this world subsists upon.
Well, it'll be a danger to them, and it says if we can develop really, really powerful loving relationships with one another, we won't even have to preach to people. I always joke and say we could be devil worshippers and people would think about it. They want to have connections. It's like, okay, whatever it takes, man, to have the kind of connections that they see. And of course, we're not. We're Krishna worshippers. We're good people. But they would think about it. And so it would be a natural thing. Things would expand very naturally because people are attracted, people are suffering, people are disconnected. So I think we're almost out of time here. I think, right, your darshan is going to happen very quickly here in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. We have 2 more minutes.
Okay, so
we have to keep glorifying Krishna for 2 more minutes.
Okay, so
would anyone like to
have something to
share
say?
a reflection?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. This is Nisha. Hare Krishna Prabhu. This class was everything. Thank you so much. It answered so many questions, so many burning questions. I'm going to listen to this recording, I think, almost every day. May Krishna let that happen, because I think I need those reminders. And I think to the questions that came up earlier, I don't know if I'm saying the right thing, but I feel Krishna puts us in situations like this where we can see the troubled and the issues, but I think we need to look at it as an opportunity for us to see how we can serve. And sometimes that service may seem almost impossible to do because we are not in the situation, or we don't know how to go about it, except for maybe giving some money or, stopping at that. But I think we need to get creative, and change is very slow. To do a bad deed, I think it's it's quick and fast.
Yes.
The impact is very high, but the change is going to be slow. I think we probably have to. I think that's what Krishna's test is, like, how far can we go? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay. Oh, I see. Gail.
Gail has her hand up.
Yeah, Gail has her hand up. Yeah, go ahead, Gail.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just am in love with the way you present Krishna and Krishna consciousness. Is really so wonderful, and your how should I say your modern way of presenting the philosophy. But today I two things, particularly the illumination that you shed on that third verse of the Shikshastakam, the Trinadapi, and the tolerance part. Tolerance. One of the things tolerance means is tolerating our, the situations that we find so challenging to deal with, so that we can, embark on the adventure to see what Krishna has in store for us. So that was really nice. Yeah. And just the encouragement you gave us to deal with, challenging situations, so that in the form of trusting Krishna, and it was just very wonderful, the way you present things in general. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be of some service.
Thank you. Okay, it's 8:01. There's no darshan. I don't see Adi. Hold on, there he is. Maybe it's Adi. Adi Purusha Prabhu, if that's you, please turn on your camera. Okay, there they are. Shri Shri Radhamuli Darshagur Chandra Ki Jai. Shri Vasudev Prabhu Ki Jai. Thank you, Adi Purusha Prabhu. Thanks, everyone. It was nice seeing you, nice spending time with you, glorifying Krishna together.
Say Hare Krishna.
Narayani, say Hare Krishna.
Say Hare Krishna. Say Hare.
Nice.
And Narayani just had her birthday too.
Yes. She said Krishna is sleeping.
Oh,
Krishna is sleeping. Yeah. Quiet, quiet. Krishna is sleeping. Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay. This is how it's done, dear devotees. Okay. Damdar Priya, Bhima, Bruce, Hemangi, Yogeshwari, Dana, Krishna's Radharani, Suzanne, Dana, Kili, Prabhu, and Gail. We love you and the humanity at large. We love you. We need you. Come again tomorrow.